All right, so once again, we have a flaw question here. Flaw questions are actually one of the most common question types on the LSAT, so it's no surprise we're seeing a lot of them here. And again, the steps are read the stimulus, determine the flaw for yourself, then look for a description of that in the answer choices. I think before even getting into that, one thing that makes this question tough is the use of the word psychic in line 3. They don't mean psychic the way we typically think about psychic. Psychic, in its first definition, means like magic powers or some kind of inexplicable. Something inexplicable, typically not an inexplicable ability, something that cannot be explained. That's definition number 1. But definition number 2 is different. That's saying soul or mental, relating to. I actually Googled this and looked up, if you Google any word define X, it'll tell you multiple definitions. And so same for the dictionary, like the secondary or tertiary definition of a word can be something that we don't typically use in everyday speech, but on the LSAT, it is fair game. And so if we look at this argument here, when they say people with close psychic ties could have telepathic powers, if we interpreted the word psychic to mean this, to say those with special powers have the special power of telepathy, that would be almost circular and not even bother stating, right? Because of course those who have special powers, telepathy could be among those. So instead, it makes more sense to understand the word psychic here to refer to soul and mental, meaning these people are just really close. They're really close, they have a special bond, that sort of thing. That's what they're talking about here. So those with a special bond have telepathy, because it's remarkable how you can often guess what your friends and family are thinking. Now, are they failing to consider something else here? What else might explain why you can often know what people close to you are thinking?
They're close to you.
Yeah, you know them well. Yeah, you know them well. You know them, you know their habits, you know how they think. And so it's not surprising that if you know someone really well, you could guess what they're thinking. So that is an alternative explanation or cause of this phenomenon they're talking about here. And that's what I've been looking for in the choices. So A, it's too small a sample. That might actually seem tempting. I've seen people like A for this one, but the issue is that this claim is limited specifically to close friends and relatives. It's not talking about any two people overall being able to have that connection. And they're also saying possible. It's possible between people, not that it always occurs. So their conclusion in line 2 is clear that telepathy is possible, is fairly moderate. So the sample size of close friends and relatives is fine. Possible is like some. It means at least one. But then B, of course, the highly plausible alternative explanation is you know them well, and that could explain all of the situations that Taylor, our speaker here, described. D is kind of like a mistaken negation here. Never know what a stranger is thinking. They're not saying it's impossible to know what strangers think. They're only making claims about close friends and relatives specifically. Then E, that's kind of alluding to a circular reasoning, I think. But it's a little bit different. Appeals to a premise one would accept only if you accepted the truth of the conclusion. I think that relates to maybe taking the word psychic to mean the first definition like I talked about.